exactly what I need to talk about today, which is one, the arbitrary metrics of terrorism, and two, how this undermines the soft power of peaceful techniques. I want to give a little bit of a vote we've heard out of the opening government so far. Right, so the first thing that the DPM wants to talk about is this idea that terrorists are not going to be willing to negotiate, right? So I think that we can kind of, Anisha and I will agree that yes, that may be true that terrorist organizations right now are not the most negotiable people in the world. But we think that when you do this, when you take away the international law, we think this only makes it worse because now you're taking what little wiggle room we have in and of itself to negotiate with them away, and now it's giving them ammunition to further manipulate people within their terrorist organizations to do things they want to do. And even in that, we think that if their worst case scenario, right, if we say that the terrorist organizations are the worst versions of what they're painting, we buy that. We also think that now when we're fighting fire with fire, when we're killing their people, when we're torturing their people, we think that when they do kidnap American civilians, or they kidnap other Western civilians, or just people not in the organization, they're going to be more than likely to kill them faster than they would before, because we have now started fighting fire by oh, you're going to torture our people, we're going to torture yours. They're not going to bend the will to this isn't going to make them better people. We think this is only going to make them push even harder. The second thing they talk about is they make this comparison, right, that these are not soldiers, right? There's a difference between terrorists and soldiers. We think that that's not true. We actually think that a lot of people in terrorist organizations are a lot like soldiers, meaning that they have to listen to their higher-ups. They do what they're being told. The only difference is if they don't do what they're told, their families are threatened to be killed, or they're threatened to lose money that can give them economic income to provide for their families. We think that it's a different mechanism that terrorist organizations use, but the people that are in their ranks are soldiers, and they're being treated and coerced as such. So going into what Anish talks about, right, the arbitrary measures of terrorism. I think it's really important, at least for Anish and I, to kind of characterize what terrorist organizations look like, who terrorists are, and kind of understanding that dynamic of it for a lot of our arguments to get some weight to it, right? Because we think that a lot of individuals turn to terrorism in their countries because they feel like they have no other option. They feel like their government has wronged them, that they have oppressed them in a certain way, that they feel like their government is not a reliable, legitimate person to listen to and adhere to. We think that this vulnerability that they feel, this distrust in their government, is a perfect coercion technique for terrorist organizations to use to manipulate people to join them in their ranks. We think they can use this as, hey, you don't have any money because your government has oppressed you, we'll give you money to feed your families, right? We'll provide you a safe place to stay. We'll make sure your families are safe in society, right? The only thing is you work for us now. You do what we tell you to do. We think that this sort of manipulation and coercion is exactly what Anish tells you on why these people are not just these horrible, worst versions of terrorists that they want to paint out. We think that they are human. We think that we don't agree with the things that they do, but we think that there is a level of coercion and manipulation that is brought to them that makes this a little bit different when you want to take this international law away from them, right? Because when you do this now, you're losing a sense of accountability, which is what Anish talks about. And what does he mean by that? It means that right now we've set an international law in place to where certain countries cannot do things to individuals in acts of war, right? Or whatever this is, right? We think that this is extremely important, and the government likes to tell you is okay, the US can say that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are terrorists, right? But there are other countries, if this is an international thing, that they may consider certain groups of people terrorists, that the international law will be that is not a terrorist. You are now just hurting a group of people because you're claiming them as terrorists, right? A good example of this is Erdogan in Turkey, right? He thinks the Kurdish people are terrorists because they're they're coming into their land and they want land for their groups of people, right? When you abolish this and you say that this should not be a thing, you're allowing a metric for governments in different countries to say this is a terrorist organization. We are justified to torture them. We are justified to not consider them a person of war, and we're going to do it. And they may tell you on government side that there's checks and balances, right? Think about the way that the world works and think about the way that countries have relations with each other. If an American government were to decide right now, here now, that a group of people is a terrorist group, nobody's going to check them because of how strong a hard power America is, right? So if America or Russia or China decide this is a terrorist group, no one's going to check them. They're going to let them hurt and torture and marginalize further groups of people because you're getting rid of a law that is important to maintain the protection of other groups of people, right? We think that this is the best metric to make sure that groups of people are being taken care of and accounted for the way they should be. Before I move my second, I'll take top line.
Do you fundamentally believe that those checks and balances actually currently exist in the status quo? Because otherwise, it's not unique.
Well, then it's a little bit easier when you have an international law when countries are not abiding by it to say, look, this is an international law that all the countries agree on. This is a treaty. This is the set standard that we've created, and it's a lot easier to hold them accountable than just scared to interact with hard government powers because you're so scared of the hard power that they possess, right? Okay, so moving into the second thing, that it undermines the soft power of other peaceful techniques, right? So I think this comes into this idea that like backlash, right? Opening government wants to tell you that this is going to decrease the amount of terrorist organizations. We think this is only going to like increase them and make it a lot harder and a lot stronger. Why is that? Because we think that when people are joining terrorist organizations because they feel coerced and they feel manipulated, and they now see what's being done to them, we think that this is ammunition for people in terrorist organizations to use this to their people inside and say, look what these people are doing to our groups of people. Look how they're treating them. If you want to say that there's any hope for this, look at how they're now using this and they're like fighting fire with fire. Right? We think that this makes it worse. We think that this like retrenchment of this comes from when you take away this sort of like international law claim, right? Because it's what Anish tells you is like, yes, in the short term, right, you're torturing them. A country may feel like they're getting some short-term justice from having this, but the long term is now what you're doing is you're giving terrorist organizations fuel to get more troops, to gather more people and say, they're not this Western ideal thing that they're trying to hold up, right? They're not this justified countries that are coming in and like doing good for you. Look what they're doing to your own people, right? We think that like, yeah, you may feel really good right then torturing one person in a terrorist organization. When they take that one person and they blow it up and they say, no thank you. And they say, look what they're doing to your groups of people. Look how they're treating us. Look how they're making us feel. We think that this sort of thing is what makes it even easier for terrorist organizations to coerce more people, to make more acts of crime, to make more crimes against humanity. And we think that because of that premise, because of that long-term harm that comes from it, we reject this idea, right? Because we don't want this. We think that terrorism is a systematic issue that doesn't go away by starting to kill other people, right? Think about how angry like our own countries get when like our people are taken and our people are tortured, right? It makes us want to fight harder, it makes us want to rally our people and say, look what they're doing to us. We think that you're giving terrorist organizations that power, you're giving them that ammunition when you don't focus on the long-term harm that come from this, when you only focus on that little bit of good that it feels to torture a person because they feel like you've wronged their country, but not necessarily what that means to the countries after that, right? We think that because of that issue, and as horrible as that sounds, that there are like harder things that come from this that have to be engaged with that Anish and I bring to you from opening competition. Thank you.